Okay, so in an attempt to create kind of an open reel type editing environment, I've rigged this cassette player up where I can move the tape in and out, and I've had to make a few mods to it for this particular deck to figure out how to do it. But basically what I've done is I've disabled the pinch roller. I have taken off this little tab right here, which pushes into the tape and I believe activates an auto stop when it's pulled against in this direction, because now that I've taken it off, it doesn't seem like it's doing the auto stop when I pull back. So it took the tension off there. So that was right next to the head, almost where the erase head would be. And so this, I just took the spring off basically. So now when I want to run this, I have to manually push the way like this. You can probably see this is running right now. The motor's running, the belts are running. But when I want to run the tape, I just push the pinch roller up against the capstan to run it. And so another thing I've done is it's just, this is the sort of my first attempt was, you've seen a video with maybe on this channel with the beat playing. I was running it around this cassette shell here, and it was precarious because it wouldn't hold on to the sides of the tape. So I took this shell and I took a soldering iron, heated it up, burned in indentions on either side on the bottom part here, with the idea that I would be able to take in the future. In other words, I want to have like a couple of these where I can run tape loops on the outside of here without having to worry about whether or not it's, without having to roll it, thread it through the bottom part of a chopped off cassette every time. So I took a soldering iron, thinking that that would be the least that I could maybe get a smooth indention on each side. It worked okay. I ended up smoothing it out with a Dremel tool and then finishing it off with sandpaper. So I don't know if that saved me any time over just using a Dremel tool or not. Again, these are very early experiments on just trying to get this to work. What I eventually want to do is set up a cassette editing station where I've got my little Splice It kit here, and I want to get all right now this whole area in the studio and everything is an absolute mess, which is fine. It's usually a mess when I'm working, and then I clean it up and start over. Doesn't stay in a mess, but right now the whole studio is kind of a mess. But anyway, I've got about 3 or 4 projects going at once. But what I would eventually like to do, I'm sitting on top of a functioning cassette deck here. I would like to have a piece of wood, and maybe have this deck mounted on a piece of wood, or a way to secure it down easily, snap it into place or something. Put a wing nut or just something so I can like lock it down so it doesn't move. Which actually, now that I'm saying that though, I have to adjust the tension of this tape depending on how long the loop is. So I guess I would be moving the whole table at that point. But the point is, when I'm adjusting the other side of the loop or whatever, or if I'm playing with it, it's not shifting around. And then also have like an editing block right here, and so which will allow me to eventually edit things as I'm trying to do right now. So if you've ever seen somebody on YouTube or done it yourself, people edit tape on an open reel machine. It's so much easier. But that's kind of what I'm trying to create here, is a way to edit sort of like that. So what I have right now is this deck is running. The head is engaged and active, and I've got an output going to a mixer into some speakers. And as you can see, if you watch the other video where I've got this little beat that's going, there's 4 clicks, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the beat starts and then comes back around. So what I'm probably going to do is cut it after the 4th stick click. 1, 2, 3, 4, cut right there, and then I'll have the right amount of space at the end of the last bass drum. Ba, boom. So it'll be ba, boom, and then the next snare. So I've either got to cut, I've got to cut one side or the other so that there's the right amount of space. Right now I'm looking at cutting at the end of the click. It's a lot easier in a DAW, by the way. So so you can hear I've got the ability here to go backwards and forwards. So I'll show you real quick. Here's the 4 clicks. No, that was 2 clicks. 2 clicks and then a bass drum. There's probably the first click. One, 2, there's the second one. Forward, backward, forward, backward. And you can see as I'm trying to do this, this is shifting around. That's what I'm talking about, wanting to be able to create enough, maybe just sitting on rubber would do it, but being able to create enough tension here so that I can freely just pull this back and forth and manipulate tape without having to worry about this thing moving around. But at the same time, I do need to be able to adjust where this is in relationship to whatever's over here, which in this case is a lamp, basically. So a gooseneck on a lamp. So I've got click, click, and bass drum. So what next challenge? Click, backwards, click, backwards. So next challenge is that just passed the head. So I'm going to mark that end of beat 4. It's like right, the click on there is like right on beat 4. So again, this is your first time I've done it in this way. Don't know if this is going to work. Big experiment. And you're seeing it live on tape if I upload this. So as I'm pulling this out, you might be able to see that these little grooves I have that I've burned into the side. I'm going to go ahead and put this mark on here. Tape is not moved on the, in terms of the, where it is on the head, I don't think. Using a silver Sharpie on the face of this, probably not a good idea. Again, this is all experimental. Also, I think life would be easier if I would also burn a curve or grind a curve into the top here. So I might do that. I don't know. I'm gonna think about that. I don't want the tape to get caught, but that's a possibility. Okay, so now, don't know what the ink's gonna do, what the Sharpie paint is gonna do on this tape. But now, I think the next thing I'm going to try to mark is I think I'm going to mark, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to mark the last bass drum and the first bass drum. And then I'm going to make a decision about how I'm going to cut this. Because I think there's 2 ways I can do it. Okay, so one thing I had, you can see the tape kind of going. One thing I was doing earlier was propping this up with something. So there's my editing tape. It's not, makes the angle a little bit better. Not great. You know what I need is something, stand by. Okay, so here's what I've decided to try. I've got too much space between the snare and the bass. So I'm gonna draw a line at, if you think about bass, snare, long gap, bass, I'm gonna draw bass at the beginning of the transient, snare at the beginning of the transient, bass at the beginning of the transient, and then I'm going to use this bass and snare as a loose measurement to cut out that much tape. So the same distance that are between this bass and snare are going to be between this snare and this bass, since this is a linear or beat. And again, I could use a ruler to do this. I might grab a ruler, I might eyeball it, but that's what I'm going to do right now. So the way I've got this deck set up, what I can do is I can bass, snare, bass, bass, okay, so that's my first bass there I want to mark. And I want to mark it like, so we're going this direction and bass is going, but. So I want to mark it right before the transient of the bass drum, because it's going to be transient, transient, transient. Okay. So I got to check it again. Okay. That should be right at the top of the transient. I'm not cutting this. This one's not as crucial. It's just a measurement. So I've got to clean the studio. I have these little screws that hold the cassette decks together. They keep falling. They keep rolling off the top of the deck in my lap. I'm like, geez, I gotta clean. Okay, so okay. Again, experimental here. I don't recommend that you necessarily put Sharpie on your good tape or heads. But this is what we're doing right now because I don't have access to the back. It's not really a possibility. So far, honestly, I haven't had any ill effects. You know, this is paint, it dries. It's not affecting the magnetic oxide. I mean, it's not ideal, but it's a, you know, it's probably, as long as it's not too much of it doesn't get smeared across the head. And of course, we're dealing with very gritty sounds here. This is not, we're not going for pristine. Okay, next. Beginning of the snare. By the way, I'm getting a sense of how much pressure the pinch roll and the capstan needs now. Boom. So we've got this is double, triple check here. We've got boom. There's my snare. Which I actually have marked from before, it looks like. Okay. I've got a mark from before. I'm just looking at it to see. I don't want that to confuse me. I gotta recheck it. Okay, yeah, this is gonna be a different, slightly different marking here. Just a little bit different. Okay, so the transient starts, I'm going to call it right there. And we're going to be cutting I'll draw another little line here just to signify which one I'm looking at. Okay. Make sure the ink's dry. Paint, whatever this is. It's oil-based. It's oil-based paint. Okay. Store tip down. Man, you know, I never noticed that before. That makes so much sense. Because that would keep them from drying out. Another great tip here on the cassette channel. All right, so we've got boom, chick, boom, chick. Okay, next, transient. Lower the tension. Transient. Of beat one. That was the remnant of the click, I believe. All right, so there it is. Okay, beginning of the transient. All right, stand by. Okay, so this is another place where the splicing block looks like it's really going to come in handy because I've determined how long the tape needs to be approximately to effectively make the loop sound seamless, you know, in terms of the rhythm. But, and what I'm going to try to do, I think this is probably the way to do it, is I'm going to mate the tapes at the point of the edit. Actually, yeah, that is right. That is right. I'm going to cut them at the same time, so they'll be like a perfect cut. I think this is going to work. I think that's one of the, I think this is a pretty common way to, when you're splicing two together, because then you're going to get an exact cut. Razor blade is going to make a pretty exact cut anyway, but when you're actually cutting both of them at the same time, you know, you're getting this kind of seamless edge. Okay, first thing you got to do is measure 4.5 millimeters, which is, how long the gap is. I got to get this super exact. My fantastic editing station here with the... Okay, so gap between there and there. Okay. Getting there. .5 millimeters between that is really close. All right, so here's the beat in its entirety. It does sound a little bit better with the pressure pad in there. See if I can get it to run without stopping. Nope. There we go. Missing the tail on one of these snares. This is a very long tail, right? That one's a little short. I could fix that over here on the board with a little bit of this.